Have you ever wondered how to finally feel peace even when everything around you is uncertain, chaotic, or slipping out of your hands? Buddhism offers us timeless teachings that whisper a powerful truth. If it's meant for you, it will come. You don't need to chase, force, or beg. Through ancient parables and simple truths, we'll uncover how to release what weighs you down and open your heart to what's truly meant for you. Because detachment doesn't mean giving up, it means freedom. Freedom from fear, from expectation, from the pain of holding on too tightly. Ask yourself, what are you still clinging to that's already gone? In this video, we'll walk a path of clarity, calm, and quiet strength. You'll discover how to stop resisting and start trusting. If you get one thing out of this video, let it be this. You don't need to force what's already yours. Stay until the end. There's a powerful bonus lesson that could change everything. Let's begin. Number 1, the essence of detachment. What if I told you that your suffering isn't coming from the loss, but from the way you're holding on? We grip so tightly to outcomes, identities, people, and plans, believing that our value is tied to what stays. But what if the truest power lies in letting go? What is meant for you will find its way. It sounds simple, almost too gentle for the chaos we live in, but within this phrase lies one of the most liberating truths of Buddhist philosophy, the essence of detachment. Imagine your inner self as a dandelion seed, weightless, carried by the wind, not lost, not drifting, but simply flowing, unburdened by the soil it left behind. That's what detachment looks like. Not running, not resisting, just allowing. Clinging is like closing your fist around water. The tighter you hold, the faster it slips through. And yet, we cling to relationships we've outgrown, to jobs that suffocate our soul, to dreams that no longer align with our growth. Why? Because we confuse control with security. But control is an illusion, and illusions keep us suffering. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of all suffering. But don't mistake detachment for coldness. It isn't about shutting down, it's about showing up with your whole heart and still being willing to let go. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? Maybe it's the idea of who you should be. Maybe it's the need for constant validation, or maybe it's someone you loved deeply, but who no longer walks beside you. Whatever it is, ask yourself gently, is this helping me grow, or is it weighing me down? The shift happens when you stop chasing and start trusting, when you surrender the outcome and focus instead on your presence, your clarity, your alignment. A simple yet powerful practice, meditation, not to escape life, but to sit with it, to watch your thoughts come and go like clouds without chasing or judging, to realize that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. How can you cultivate a habit of gentle observation in your daily life? Start small. When the urge to control creeps in, pause, breathe, witness the tension, and choose softness. You'll find that the more you let go, the lighter you become, the calmer, the freer. One story comes to mind. A woman who lost her dream job felt broken. But in stillness, she began to ask, not, why me, but what is this teaching me? Months later, a door opened, one that aligned not with her ego, but with her soul. She didn't lose, she was redirected. When you get what you want, that's God's direction. When you don't, that's God's protection. Detachment is an act of deep trust. Trust that the universe isn't working against you, it's working through you. And sometimes the things we fear losing are the very things blocking our peace. If it's meant for you, it will come. And if it doesn't, it was never yours to carry. Let go not in bitterness, but in faith. Let go not in defeat, but in peace. Because your spirit, like that dandelion seed, was born to move freely. So ask yourself one final time, what can I release today to become who I was always meant to be? 2. Radical acceptance. Sometimes the storm doesn't pass when you want it to. The relationship ends, the job slips through your fingers, the plan unravels, and you find yourself staring at a version of life you never asked for. Yet you try to resist it, fight it, bargain with it, but it only tightens its grip. Pain multiplies not because of what happened, but because you refuse to accept it. Acceptance is the first step toward inner liberation. These words echo deeply in Buddhist thought, not as resignation, but as empowerment. Acceptance is not giving up, it's waking up to the truth of what is and finally putting down the exhausting weight of denial. Visualize your life as a mosaic, not a perfect painting, but a collage of shattered pieces, joy, loss, love, mistakes, triumphs. At first, it might look broken, but step back and you see how every crack is part of the masterpiece, how every flaw contributes to the whole. That's what radical acceptance is, not fixing every piece, but honoring the picture they create. So many of us spend years running from our flaws, hiding our past, pretending to be someone we're not. But Buddhism teaches us that freedom comes not from perfection, but from presence. It's only when you stop resisting your wounds that they start to heal. In what ways can embracing your flaws lead to growth? What if the thing you're most ashamed of could become your greatest teacher? What if your insecurities are actually invitations to become more honest, more human, more whole? The real transformation begins with a mindset shift. You are not broken, you are becoming. Growth doesn't always look graceful. It often looks like chaos before clarity, and that's okay. Start with a small practice, daily affirmations, not empty phrases, but grounded truths that meet you where you are. Say, I accept myself as I am today. Say, this moment is enough. Say, even in uncertainty, I am still growing. What can you affirm today to align with your inner truth? Maybe it's, I release the need to have all the answers, or I forgive myself for not being perfect. Speak it, believe it, let it root into your nervous system like a quiet strength. The more you honor where you are, the more clearly you'll see the path ahead. Radical acceptance is not passive, it's a courageous act, because to accept reality means facing it without distortion. It means saying yes to the joy and the pain, the gain and the loss, the light and the shadow. And in that acceptance, you find your greatest resilience. One man grieving the end of a marriage once said, I kept trying to get back to who I was. Then one day I realized I've never truly met myself until now. Acceptance didn't erase his pain, but it gave him peace. And from that peace, he rebuilt his life, not as it was, but as it was meant to be. You don't need to control the storm, you just need to stop fighting the rain, because every drop is shaping you, softening you, strengthening you. So ask yourself, what part of me needs my acceptance today? And when you answer it, meet it with love. That's where true liberation begins. 3. Trusting the process of life. There's a kind of exhaustion that comes from constantly trying to control everything, your future, your relationships, your success. You push, you plan, you overthink, and still, nothing feels certain. That tension in your chest, that's your soul whispering that it's tired of carrying what it was never meant to hold. Every season of life brings a hidden blessing, but only if you're still enough to receive it. There's a deeper rhythm to this life, a pulse beyond deadlines and demands. Buddhism invites us to stop striving against the current and start trusting its flow. Picture life as a vast, ancient tree, its roots anchored in the unseen, its branches reaching into uncertainty, swaying, stretching, bending, never asking where the wind will take them, just trusting it will. The tree does not rush the blooming of its fruit. It does not panic in winter. It simply responds to the season, knowing each one is part of its becoming. You too are part of something sacred and seasonal. But when you try to force outcomes, when you demand certainty, you step out of alignment with life's deeper intelligence. You chase timelines that aren't yours, compare your path to others, and miss the miracles hiding in the detours. How can you shift from forcing outcomes to trusting the natural process? The answer is not found in doing more, it's in learning to wait wisely. It's in developing the discipline of stillness. In Buddhist practice, trust isn't passive, it's deeply aware. It means you show up, you do your part, and then you surrender what's not in your control. A powerful tool to cultivate this mindset is daily reflection through journaling. You begin to notice the synchronicities, the moments that didn't make sense at the time, but later revealed their purpose. The job you didn't get that made space for a better one, the relationship that ended that brought you back to yourself. Write them down, witness the pattern, see how life, even in its chaos, has always been guiding you. It's in the reflection that trust begins to grow, not as blind hope, but as lived evidence. One young man shared how he lost everything he'd worked for, his business, his apartment, his sense of identity. At first, he spiraled, but then he started journaling, reflecting, surrendering. A year later, he said, "That loss gave me the life I was actually meant to live. I just didn't see it until I stopped fighting it." Because here's the truth, trust dissolves fear. When you stop trying to grip the steering wheel of life so tightly, your energy shifts. You begin to attract peace, not panic. And with peace comes clarity. With clarity, purpose. You were never meant to have all the answers. You were meant to live the questions, to breathe into the unknown, to walk slowly through uncertainty, and find yourself exactly where you need to be. So take a breath, release the urgency, and ask yourself, what if I'm not behind in life? What if I'm exactly on time, just in a season I don't fully understand yet? Because what's meant for you will come, not when you chase it, but when you trust the roots are growing, even when you can't yet see the leaves. 4. Letting go of control. You plan everything down to the minute, map your future like a blueprint, neat, calculated, predictable. But then life throws the unexpected, a lost opportunity, a relationship that shifts, a version of yourself that no longer fits. And suddenly, the plan starts to crumble. Panic sets in. You double down, more effort, more control, more anxiety. But what if the very thing you're clinging to is what's holding you back? Freedom is born when the illusion of control fades. That's the quiet wisdom Buddhism offers. Because control, as comforting as it feels, is a mask we wear to shield us from fear. The fear of uncertainty, the fear of loss, the fear of not being enough unless everything goes exactly our way. But here's the truth. Life isn't a straight path. It's a river. Envision that river carving its way through mountains and valleys. It doesn't resist the rock in its path. It doesn't curse the curve in the land. It flows around, beneath and through, never forcing, never fixed. It adapts, it moves, and in doing so, it shapes the world without breaking itself. You are that river, but only when you let go of the need to control every bend in your journey. What areas of your life feel too controlled, and how might you release them? Maybe it's the constant pressure to be productive. Maybe it's the way you script every conversation, terrified of being misunderstood. Maybe it's your career, your relationships, or your timeline of success. Ask yourself, what's the cost of holding so tightly? The cost is creativity. The cost is peace. The cost is the serendipity that only arises when you allow space for it. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that peace isn't found in perfection. It's found in presence. When we stop trying to dominate each moment and instead meet it, we begin to live fully. Try this. When you feel the urge to micromanage or fix what's unfolding, pause. Close your eyes. Take one deep breath, then another. Remind yourself, this moment does not need my control. It needs my awareness. This simple mindfulness practice rewires your nervous system from panic to trust. It's in that release that life begins to reveal alternate paths. One woman I met spent years building a corporate career that looked successful on paper but felt hollow. When the company restructured, she fought to stay but eventually let go. In that space of uncertainty, she rediscovered her love for art. A year later, she started a studio, thriving not because she controlled the outcome, but because she surrendered to the possibility. By surrendering the need to control, you empower yourself to discover new strength. You begin to navigate life not as a battleground, but as a journey. You're no longer driven by fear of the unknown, but guided by faith in what can emerge from it. Letting go isn't giving up, it's showing up differently. It's trusting that when the plan falls apart, the path might finally appear. So today, ask yourself, where can I allow more flow and less force? Because what's meant for you will not need to be chased. It will arrive when you stop resisting the river and learn to move with it. 5. Embracing impermanence. You hold on because it feels safe. You grip tightly to people, jobs, routines, expectations, afraid that if they change, you'll lose yourself. But change is not the enemy. The real suffering begins when we deny its presence, when we pretend that anything or anyone will stay exactly the same forever. Nothing stays the same, and therein lies its beauty. This is the essence of impermanence, a truth that Buddhism places at the very heart of liberation. Think of a desert sandstorm. It arrives suddenly, chaotic, blinding, fierce. You can't stop it, and you can't control it. But when it passes, something extraordinary happens. The sky clears, silence returns, and beneath the dust lies something untouched. A sacred stillness that was always there, simply waiting to be seen. This is life. Moments come and go. Joy arrives, then sorrow. Success blooms, then fades. People enter, and sometimes they leave. But in all this movement, there is a quiet gift. Impermanence reveals what truly matters. How can the acceptance of impermanence enrich your current experiences? Start here. Stop postponing joy. Stop waiting for someday to feel gratitude. This moment right now is already slipping away. Cherish it. Let your coffee taste fuller, your words feel softer, your relationships deepen, not because they'll last forever, but because they won't. And that is what makes them sacred. The mind resists change because it fears loss, but the heart grows through it. When you open yourself to the truth that all things pass, your pain, your confusion, even your current identity, you'll begin to see change not as a threat, but as a companion walking beside you on the journey. You've already survived so many endings. A friendship that faded, a chapter that closed, a version of yourself that outgrew its purpose. And yet, here you are, still becoming, still blooming. Why? Because change has always been your ally, even when you didn't recognize it. Develop an attitude of gratitude for impermanence by reflecting each day. What changed for me, and what did that make possible? Maybe the delay that frustrated you led to a meaningful encounter. Maybe the heartbreak opened you to a deeper self-love. Start noticing. When you begin to see the gifts hidden in transition, you'll stop fearing the storm. There's an old Zen phrase, "This too shall pass." It's not just comfort during pain, it's a call to be awake during joy, to live fully in the now, to hold things lightly, love deeply, and release with grace. Embracing impermanence doesn't detach you from life. It anchors you in it. It teaches you to show up with an open heart and a soft grasp. You stop demanding permanence from what is, by nature, fleeting. And in doing so, you free yourself from regret, from fear, from the weight of control. So ask yourself, what have I been resisting to change, and what would happen if I simply allowed it? Let the sandstorm pass, let life unfold, because what's meant for you will not need to be gripped. It will remain with grace. And when it's time to let go, it will leave behind something greater, a resilient, grateful, awakened you. 6. Cultivating the power of presence. We spend most of our lives chasing shadows, memories of the past, dreams of the future, rarely stopping to realize that life is not unfolding there, it's unfolding here, right now. And yet, How many moments have we missed in our hurry to get somewhere else? Be fully here, for now is all there ever is. That isn't just poetic wisdom, it's a revolutionary truth, because the present moment is where your life actually happens. Everything else is just a thought echoing through time. Imagine yourself as a luminous lantern in a dark cave. When your light is fixed ahead or behind, the path beneath you disappears. You trip, you feel lost. But the moment you shine inward, right where you stand, everything becomes visible. The rocks, the beauty, the stillness, all of it was always there, waiting for your presence to illuminate it. What small moment right now can you fully embrace? Maybe it's the softness of your breath, the warmth of your tea, the way sunlight filters through your window, the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat. These are not distractions. They are sacred doorways into presence, the only place where clarity, peace, and real connection live. Our minds are conditioned to wander, to relive regrets, rehearse worries, solve problems that haven't even arrived. It feels productive, but what it really does is drain us. Burnout, anxiety, emotional fatigue. These are not just results of doing too much. Often, they're symptoms of being too far from the now. Presence is not a passive state. It is an active returning, a discipline of awareness. When you practice grounding yourself in the moment, through deep breathing, mindful walking, even conscious observation, you're not escaping life, you're finally stepping into it. Start small. The next time you're eating, just eat. Taste the food, feel its texture, resist the urge to scroll. When you're walking, just walk. Notice the pressure of your feet, the breeze on your face, the space between each breath. These moments, though ordinary, are sacred when met with full attention. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Why? Because when we are truly present, the grip of fear, ego, and suffering loosens. We stop reacting, we start responding, and we begin to experience life not as a battle to control, but as a gift to receive. Presence dismantles anxiety and unlocks the hidden treasures of everyday life. The joy in your child's laughter, the clarity in a quiet morning, the deep stillness beneath your thoughts. None of it can be accessed while your mind is chasing a past you can't change or a future you can't predict. So ask yourself, what part of my life is asking me to come home to it right now? Come back, not to yesterday, not to tomorrow, but to now. Because the more you root yourself in presence, the more life begins to reveal its richness. And slowly, without needing to force or chase, what's meant for you begins to arrive, not because you grasped harder, but because you finally became available to receive it. 7. Observing without attachment. There's a quiet strength in simply watching your thoughts rise and fall, your emotions surge and settle like waves on an endless ocean. Let the waves come and go, leaving the shore untouched. Life doesn't stop moving. Joy visits and leaves, pain crashes then retreats. And yet, within you is a shore, a place of stillness untouched by the chaos of the tide. The challenge is not to stop the waves. The challenge is to stop believing you are the waves. Picture yourself as the vast sky, endless and unchanging. Now imagine each thought, each emotion, each passing anxiety as a cloud drifting through that sky. Some are dark, some light, some heavy, some fast-moving. But none of them last. None of them define the sky, and none of them need to define you. Can you notice your thoughts as clouds passing by in a vast sky? This is the essence of observing without attachment. It's not cold or indifferent. It's a gentle way of being deeply present without becoming entangled. In Buddhist practice, this is called mindfulness, the sacred act of seeing clearly, noticing what arises, acknowledging it, and letting it pass without judgment, without story, without clutching. When heartbreak stings, observe it. When envy whispers, observe it. When fear grips, observe it, just noticing without drowning in it. That awareness alone changes everything. Because once you realize that your emotions are visitors, not residents, you stop handing them the keys to your peace. Apply this simple practice daily. Pause. Breathe. When a thought or emotion arises, silently label it. Thinking, worrying, hoping, judging. This isn't to suppress your experience. It's to unmask it, to remove its illusion of control over you. The more you do this, the more space you create between what you feel and how you respond. Reactivity comes from identification. We react because we believe the thought is true. The emotion is permanent. But observation creates freedom. Freedom to choose, to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. And in that space, something extraordinary happens. Clarity is born. Peace returns. And your mind, once stormy and restless, begins to reflect the calmness of that ancient shore. Ask yourself now, what am I holding on to as absolute that may only be a passing wave? Could it be that the fear, the urgency, the regret are just momentary weather? What happens if you simply let them pass? This way of being takes practice. It's not easy, but it is simple. And every time you return to it, you cultivate emotional resilience. You build inner clarity. You begin to experience life as it is, not through the filter of fear or desire, but through the lens of quiet awareness. This non-attachment frees you from reactive patterns. It's not escape. It's arrival, the kind of arrival that doesn't depend on fixing anything, changing anything, or forcing anything, just being with what is. Knowing that you are not what comes and goes. You are the witness, the sky, the shore. And when you live from that space, something beautiful unfolds. What's meant for you begins to find its way, not because you grasped at it, but because you finally made space to receive it. 8. Harnessing inner stillness. There's a wisdom that doesn't shout. It waits in silence, in stillness, in spaces we rarely visit. In stillness, all the answers quietly await. But we miss them because we keep moving from screen to screen, task to task, thought to thought. We chase clarity like it's out there somewhere in the noise, when it's always been inside, just waiting for us to be still enough to hear. Imagine your mind as a still pond. When the wind is calm and the surface is undisturbed, it reflects everything with perfect clarity, the sky, the trees, the stars. But when thoughts race and emotions stir like gusts of wind, the water ripples, the reflection distorts. You can't see what's true because the surface is too restless. That's what inner stillness offers, not escape, but clarity, not avoidance, but a deeper presence with what is. We often equate silence with emptiness, but true silence is full of insight, awareness, strength. It's in those quiet moments that the deepest parts of us speak. And yet, many fear it because silence also makes us meet what we've been avoiding. The ache of loss, the fear of failure, the question of who we are when there's nothing left to do. Stillness requires courage, to sit without distracting yourself, to feel without running, to be without performing. But in that space, healing begins. The heart softens, the mind opens, and the answers we've been seeking in books, in others, in ambition, begin to rise gently from within. What moments of silence can you invite into your routine? Could it be the early morning before the world wakes up? Could it be 5 minutes of breath before a big decision? Could it be walking without your phone, eating without distraction, listening without interrupting? Start small. Set aside a few moments each day for quiet reflection. You don't need incense or chants, just your breath and your presence. Sit, breathe, and watch the chaos settle. Thoughts will come, and that's okay. Watch them pass like clouds across a quiet sky. The practice isn't about stopping thought. It's about remembering you are not your thoughts. You are the space they move through. This stillness is not passive. It's powerful. It grounds you. It gives you the strength to respond instead of react. When you're still, you no longer chase meaning. You become the source of it. You stop clinging, you stop fearing, you simply are. And from that grounded place, you choose better, you love deeper, you live freer. Ask yourself now, when was the last time I allowed myself to be completely still? What might I hear if I stopped trying to fill the silence? In a world that glorifies constant motion, your stillness is a rebellion, a sacred return to the center of who you are. It's where detachment becomes natural, not forced. Because when you're anchored in calm, you no longer need to grip the future or rewrite the past. You simply allow. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening in its own perfect time. And when you honor that time, what's meant for you won't need to be chased. It will rise like the quiet truth that's been with you all along. 9. Resilience through change. Life rarely unfolds according to our plans. Just when we think we've found solid ground, the earth shifts. A job ends, a relationship fractures, a dream drifts out of reach. And in that trembling silence, we're left asking, why now? Why me? But within every challenge lies the seed of transformation. This is not poetic comfort. It's a truth carved into the story of every resilient soul. Think of the phoenix, engulfed in flames, not as an end, but as a sacred beginning. From ash rises strength, from ruin, a new rhythm. The question isn't whether change will come, it will. The question is, who will you become because of it? You are not fragile, even if the world told you otherwise. You are adaptive by design. You were born to evolve, not just to survive, but to thrive. Resilience isn't about pretending you're unaffected. It's not about brushing aside grief or painting over pain. It's about sitting in the fire of discomfort and choosing to stay awake. It's in the act of turning toward, not away from, the hard parts that growth begins, where wisdom is forged. Consider your greatest heartbreak. At the time, it felt like devastation. I think the user wants me to continue punctuating the text properly without changing any words. The text is about Buddhist teachings and mindfulness practices. The user has already provided a lengthy text with several sections, and I have been adding punctuation to it. I need to ensure that I continue this task accurately, maintaining the original message and flow of the text. I should focus on identifying where punctuation is needed, such as periods, commas, question marks, and exclamation points, to make the text more readable and clear. But look closer. Did it not eventually reveal something about your worth, your boundaries, your capacity to love more wisely? Or think about a failure you once feared would define you. Perhaps it rerouted you to a path more aligned with who you truly are. This is the alchemy of resilience, turning the heavy lead of hardship into the gold of self-awareness. What challenge in your life could be reframed as a catalyst for transformation? Maybe you're in the middle of it now, navigating uncertainty, mourning a version of your life that no longer fits. Ask yourself not just how to get through it, but what it's here to teach you. Pain often speaks in whispers we ignore until we're forced to listen. But if you can learn to listen early without resistance, you can walk through change with grace instead of dragging your feet through suffering. Start by journaling, not to fix anything, but to witness it. Reflect on the changes you're facing. Write about how each one is shaping you. It's not about pretty answers. It's about honest presence. Track your growth. Name your fears. Celebrate small shifts in awareness. Over time, you'll see a pattern, evidence that you are not the same person you were a year ago. And that's the point. You're evolving. There is sacred power in that. Understand this. Resilience is not a talent. It's a practice, a muscle you strengthen each time you choose courage over comfort, surrender over control, growth over stagnation. You won't always feel strong, but strength isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to show up anyway. So when life changes, and it will, meet it like the phoenix, not with dread, but with devotion, with the knowing that what feels like the end is often the beginning in disguise. Let detachment guide you through. Let go of how it was supposed to be and make room for what it can become. Because if it's meant for you, it will come, not in spite of change, but through it. 10. Mastery over ego. Imagine yourself as a lotus flower rising from the muddy depths of a stagnant pond. Though surrounded by darkness and muck, the lotus blooms, pristine and untainted, untouched by the shadows beneath. This is the essence of mastery over the ego, a journey from being entangled in insecurities to blossoming into your true self, radiant and free. The ego often acts like a shadow, casting fears and doubts that cloud your vision, convincing you that you must control, compete, or protect to survive. Yet this shadow is just a veil, a filter born from insecurity, not your authentic light. Recognizing this is the first step toward liberation. When you begin to see the ego for what it is, a construct, a mask, you free yourself to reconnect with your deeper, limitless nature. Think about the moments when ego-driven fears have held you back. Perhaps it's the fear of rejection that stops you from speaking your truth, or the anxiety of failure that freezes your ambition. These fears are not reflections of your real self, but echoes from the ego's need for security. What would happen if you questioned these fears? What if, instead of reacting, you paused and asked, "Is this fear truly mine?" Or, "Is this just the ego trying to protect a fragile image?" This kind. 10. Mastery over ego. Imagine yourself as a lotus flower rising from the muddy depths of a stagnant pond. Though surrounded by darkness and muck, the lotus blooms, pristine and untainted, untouched by the shadows beneath. This is the essence of mastery over the ego, a journey from being entangled in insecurities to blossoming into your true self, radiant and free. The ego often acts like a shadow, casting fears and doubts that cloud your vision, convincing you that you must control, compete, or protect to survive. Yet this shadow is just a veil, a filter born from insecurity, not your authentic light. Recognizing this is the first step toward liberation. When you begin to see the ego for what it is, a construct, a mask, you free yourself to reconnect with your deeper, limitless nature. Think about the moments when ego-driven fears have held you back. Perhaps it's the fear of rejection that stops you from speaking your truth, or the anxiety of failure that freezes your ambition. These fears are not reflections of your real self, but echoes from the ego's need for security. What would happen if you questioned these fears? What if, instead of reacting, you paused and asked, "Is this fear truly mine?" Or, "Is this just the ego trying to protect a fragile image?" This kind of self-inquiry is not about harsh judgment, but gentle curiosity, a practice of peeling back the layers that obscure your essence. It's in this peeling away that the ego's grip loosens and your authentic self begins to emerge. Practically, mastery over the ego requires intention and daily practice. Start by carving out moments for self-reflection, whether through journaling, meditation, or mindful silence. Observe your thoughts and emotions as they arise, noting when ego-driven narratives appear. Are you caught in comparison, craving validation, or resisting change out of pride? Acknowledge these patterns without shame, then gently ask yourself, who am I beneath these stories? Over time, this practice cultivates awareness and detachment from egoic impulses, allowing you to choose responses grounded in authenticity rather than fear. Radical honesty with yourself is the gateway to compassion, not only toward others, but toward your own journey. The ego often masks vulnerabilities, urging us to hide imperfections or put on a facade of strength. But true strength arises from embracing your whole self, flaws and all. Like the lotus, your inner purity and power are not diminished by the mud surrounding you. Instead, the contrast highlights your resilience and capacity to transcend challenges without losing your essence. Mastering the ego transforms your experience of life. Instead of being tossed about by external circumstances or internal dramas, you become a steady light, anchored in your authentic being. This inner freedom creates space for compassion, creativity, and genuine connection. You no longer react out of fear or need for approval, but respond with clarity and kindness. Your path becomes clearer because it is guided by truth, not by the shifting shadows of ego. Reflect now. How have your ego-driven fears shaped your decisions and relationships? What would change if you chose to see those fears as passing clouds, not permanent fixtures? What freedom might arise if you committed to the journey of self-inquiry and let your authentic self blossom like the lotus, pure, strong, and radiant, despite the mud beneath? This mastery is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding. Each step toward awareness is a victory, each moment of presence a breakthrough. Remember, the ego is a shadow, but your true light shines from within. By releasing the grip of the ego, you open to a profound inner power, limitless, compassionate, and deeply yours. This power does not cling or control. It flows naturally, attracting all that is truly meant for you. And in that flow, you discover the peace and freedom that no external circumstance can ever take away. If it's meant for you, it will come, not as a result of struggle or force, but through the quiet, unwavering mastery of your own authentic self. 11. Alignment with universal flow. Imagine your life as an intricate dance, a choreography so vast and mysterious that no single step can be fully predicted or controlled. Each movement, whether graceful or uncertain, is woven into a larger cosmic rhythm that gently guides you toward your true home. This is the essence of alignment with the universal flow, a principle that invites you to surrender your need to control every detail and instead move with the natural pulse of life. When you resist and cling tightly to outcomes, you disrupt the harmony and create tension within yourself. But when you release, you become a dancer flowing effortlessly with the music of existence, discovering grace in the unexpected. Think about your daily life, the constant pressure to plan, control, and anticipate what comes next. How often do you find yourself caught in the struggle of micromanaging every little detail, believing that your happiness or success depends on your ability to force outcomes? Pause and ask yourself, what if letting go of this need to control allowed the natural order of things to emerge in ways you never imagined? How might your day-to-day experiences change if you simply tuned into the rhythm around you, trusting that the universe's choreography includes your best interests? This shift in mindset, from resistance to surrender, is transformative. It doesn't mean giving up your goals or becoming passive. Rather, it means recognizing that you are part of something greater, an unfolding story that is both personal and universal. When you align with this flow, your efforts become more fluid, your decisions more inspired, and your sense of peace deepens. Instead of fighting the current, you learn to swim with it, conserving energy and opening space for unexpected opportunities. Practically, cultivating this alignment calls for intentional practices that invite you to step back from the chaos and breathe into the present moment. Begin by noticing where in your life you tend to grip too tightly, perhaps a relationship, a career ambition, or a personal expectation. Use mindfulness to observe your impulse to control, then consciously choose to soften your hold. This might look like pausing before reacting, allowing uncertainty to exist without panic, or simply trusting that the right step will present itself in time. Journaling can also help you track moments when surrender led to unexpected clarity or progress, reinforcing your faith in this dance. The deeper reflection here is profound. When you attune yourself to the universal flow, every moment becomes an opportunity for clarity, growth, and fulfillment. You start to see challenges not as obstacles, but as part of the choreography, essential movements that shape your evolution. Even the pauses, the moments of stillness or waiting, hold significance, giving you time to rest and recalibrate. This harmony between effort and surrender cultivates resilience, helping you navigate life's unpredictability with grace rather than fear. So ask yourself now, how can aligning with the natural flow of life transform your current struggles? What if the anxiety and burnout you feel are invitations to stop pushing and start dancing? What if the career shifts or emotional upheavals are not derailments, but steps in a dance designed uniquely for you? Embracing this cosmic rhythm doesn't guarantee ease, but it promises a path where struggle softens and your spirit moves with more lightness and joy. In the grand choreography of life, you are never alone. The power of detachment lies in this surrender, trusting that what is meant for you will come in its own time, that each step, even the uncertain ones, is part of a greater dance leading you home. When you release control and flow with life's rhythm, you discover not only peace but a profound connection to the universe's timeless wisdom. In that connection, your path becomes clearer, your heart lighter, and your journey more meaningful. Bonus lesson: living the teachings daily. Imagine your life as a vast artisan's canvas, each day offering a fresh opportunity to paint the masterpiece of your inner world. Every mindful stroke, whether it's a moment of quiet reflection, a conscious choice to release worry, or an act of kindness, adds depth and color to this evolving work of art. This is the power of living the teachings of detachment daily, a silent vow to nurture your inner peace amidst life's chaos. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the noise of anxiety, burnout, and relentless change, but by committing to small, intentional practices, you anchor yourself in calm and clarity, even when the external world feels unpredictable. Think about the daily rituals that currently shape your life. Are they helping you cultivate peace, or are they reinforcing stress and attachment? The teachings of detachment are not lofty ideals reserved for monks or spiritual masters. They are practical, actionable tools you can weave into the fabric of your everyday life. What would it look like if each morning, before the world demands your attention, you took a moment to breathe deeply and set the intention to let go of what you cannot control? Or if at night, you reflected on moments where you felt caught in attachment, gently reminding yourself that peace comes from release. These small acts of mindfulness become the brushstrokes that transform your emotional landscape. This mindset shift, integrating detachment into your daily actions, changes how you navigate anxiety, heartbreak, and the uncertainty of career or identity transitions. Instead of reacting to every stressor or clinging desperately to outcomes, you start responding with grace and resilience. You learn to see challenges not as threats, but as invitations to practice letting go and trusting the natural flow of life. Imagine how liberating it feels to wake up each day with this commitment, a commitment to yourself, your growth, and your well-being. Knowing that true freedom is cultivated in these everyday moments. Now ask yourself, what daily ritual can you begin today to embody the teachings of detachment? It might be a simple 5-minute meditation to observe your thoughts without judgment, or journaling your feelings of attachment and release. Perhaps it's a compassionate action toward someone else, recognizing that kindness extends detachment beyond yourself into the world around you. The key is consistency. These rituals don't have to be grand gestures, but rather steady, mindful habits that reinforce your alignment with these principles. As you commit to living these teachings daily, you'll notice subtle but profound shifts. Your mind grows quieter, your heart becomes more resilient. You start to experience a joy that isn't dependent on external circumstances, but springs from a well of inner peace. Even in the face of life's storms, you find a steady center, a sacred calm beneath the surface, much like the stillness beneath a turbulent sea. This resilience is not a denial of life's difficulties, but an embrace of your power to choose peace regardless of the waves crashing around you. Ultimately, living the teachings of detachment is a lifelong journey, a continuous dance between holding on and letting go. Each day is your canvas, your opportunity to paint with intention, patience, and love. By nurturing this practice, you create a life rich with meaning, clarity, and abundant joy. You move beyond merely surviving your challenges and begin to thrive, aligned with the timeless wisdom of Buddhist philosophy. In that alignment, you discover the true power of detachment, not as an absence, but as a profound presence, a deep freedom that transforms every aspect of your being. 12. The art of non-attachment in relationships. Relationships are the cornerstone of our lives, yet they often bring the deepest wounds. We cling to others, fearing loss, abandonment, or the pain of change. But what if the healthiest relationships are those where both people are free to grow, to change, to evolve, without the chains of expectation? Non-attachment in relationships doesn't mean emotional distance. It means allowing your loved ones to be who they are without trying to mold them into who you need them to be. It's about showing up fully while releasing the need for control over outcomes. Think of a relationship that once felt suffocating. Perhaps you held on too tightly, demanded loyalty, or resisted your partner's growth. What if, instead, you had practiced non-attachment? What if you had offered love without conditions, support without strings, presence without possession? Non-attachment invites us to love freely, to let go of fear, and to trust that true connection can survive even in the face of change. A story comes to mind. A couple who had been together for years found themselves growing apart. Instead of fighting the distance or clinging to the past, they chose to release their expectations. They allowed each other space to explore new paths. Months later, they rediscovered their connection, not as it once was, but deeper, more authentic. They realized that sometimes letting go is the greatest form of love. Because in non-attachment, you give others the freedom to be themselves, and in doing so, you often find a connection that's stronger, more resilient. Ask yourself, in which relationships are you holding on too tightly? What fears drive your need for control? What would happen if you practiced non-attachment, loving without conditions, supporting without demands? Non-attachment in relationships requires courage. It means facing uncertainty, embracing change, and trusting that love, in its purest form, doesn't need to control or possess. It simply is. So today, with those you love, practice this gentle release. Let them be, without the weight of your expectations. And in that release, discover a freedom that transforms not just your relationships, but your heart. 13. The alchemy of gratitude. Gratitude is not merely thankfulness for what we have. It's a transformative practice that shifts our entire perspective. When we focus on gratitude, we begin to see the world not through the lens of lack, but through the abundance that surrounds us. It's easy to get caught in the cycle of wanting more, achieving more, becoming more. But what if fulfillment isn't found in accumulation, but in appreciation? What if peace lies not in getting what you want, but in wanting what you have? Start each day with a simple practice. Name 3 things you are grateful for. They don't need to be grand: a warm bed, a nourishing meal, the sound of birdsong. As you speak these blessings aloud, feel the weight of scarcity lift. Gratitude isn't about ignoring life's difficulties. It's about balancing them with awareness of life's gifts. When facing challenges, ask yourself, what can I still be grateful for? Maybe it's the strength to face hardship, the support of loved ones, or the lesson hidden in the struggle. One woman battling chronic illness found herself consumed by anger and self-pity. Then she began a gratitude journal. Each day she noted small joys: a sunny afternoon, a kind word from a friend, the taste of fresh fruit. Over time, her perspective shifted. She didn't magically heal, but she discovered peace amid suffering. Gratitude became her alchemy, turning leaden moments into gold. So ask yourself, what have I taken for granted today? What blessings are waiting for my acknowledgement? Gratitude isn't passive. It's an active choice to focus on abundance rather than lack. It's a practice that rewires your brain to see the world differently. And in that shift, you find not just happiness, but resilience. Because when you know how to be grateful for what you have, you're better equipped to face what you don't. 14. Walking the middle path. Buddhism teaches the middle way, a path between extremes, between indulgence and asceticism, between hope and despair. It's a call to balance in all things. In a world that pulls us toward excess, whether in work, consumption, or even spiritual pursuit, the middle path invites us to find equilibrium. It's not about deprivation or excess, but about mindful moderation. Consider your own life. Are there areas where you swing between extremes, working tirelessly, then burning out, loving deeply, then closing your heart? The middle path asks you to step back, to observe these patterns, and to choose a more balanced approach. It's about working diligently while honoring rest, about pursuing goals without becoming enslaved to them, about opening your heart while protecting your peace. A man I met dedicated his life to his career, neglecting his health and relationships. When a heart attack forced him to slow down, he discovered the middle path. He reduced his workload, prioritized family dinners, and began hiking weekly. He found that balance didn't mean compromise. It meant fulfillment. His life became richer, not poorer, when he abandoned extremes. Ask yourself, where in my life do I swing between excess and deprivation? What would balance look like in these areas? The middle path isn't about settling for less. It's about recognizing that true satisfaction comes from harmony. It's about saying no to excess and yes to sustainability. By walking this path, you create a life that's not just manageable, but deeply satisfying, one where you thrive, not just survive. 15. The gift of silence. In our noisy world, silence has become a rarity. We fill our days with podcasts, music, conversations, notifications, anything to avoid the quiet. But in silence lies a profound gift, the space to hear your own soul. It's in the absence of noise that we connect with our deepest truths, that we listen to the whispers of our hearts. Try this. For 1 hour, eliminate all external noise. Turn off devices, step away from conversations, sit in stillness. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But as the silence deepens, you'll begin to hear what's beneath the noise, the subtle stirrings of your spirit, the unmet needs, the quiet longings. Silence is not empty, it's full of possibility. A retreat center in the mountains offers guests a unique experience, 48 hours of complete silence. No talking, no reading, no writing. Participants report that in the absence of noise, they discover profound clarity. One woman said, "In silence, I heard my heart's true desire for the first time in years. It wasn't about ambition or validation, it was about peace and connection." Silence revealed what words had obscured. So ask yourself, when did I last sit in complete silence? What might I discover if I committed to regular moments of quiet? Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a presence, a teacher. It invites you to listen inward, to rediscover the voice that's often drowned out by the world. In that rediscovery, you find clarity, purpose, and a deeper connection to yourself. As we near the end of this journey, remember that the path of detachment, acceptance, and mindfulness is not one you walk alone. It's a universal path trodden by countless souls before you. Each step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to a life of peace, authenticity, and freedom. The teachings are simple, but their practice is profound. And in their practice, you discover not just a way of life, but a way home to yourself. 15. The gift of silence. In our noisy world, silence has become a rarity. We fill our days with podcasts, music, conversations, notifications, anything to avoid the quiet. But in silence lies a profound gift, the space to hear your own soul. It's in the absence of noise that we connect with our deepest truths, that we listen to the whispers of our hearts. Try this. For 1 hour, eliminate all external noise. Turn off devices. Step away from conversations. Sit in stillness. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But as the silence deepens, you'll begin to hear what's beneath the noise, the subtle stirrings of your spirit, the unmet needs, the quiet longings. Silence is not empty. It's full of possibility. A retreat center in the mountains offers guests a unique experience, 48 hours of complete silence. No talking, no reading, no writing. Participants report that in the absence of noise, they discover profound clarity. One woman said, "In silence, I heard my heart's true desire for the first time in years." It wasn't about ambition or validation. It was about peace and connection. Silence revealed what words had obscured. So ask yourself, when did I last sit in complete silence? What might I discover if I committed to regular moments of quiet? Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a presence, a teacher. It invites you to listen inward, to rediscover the voice that's often drowned out by the world. In that rediscovery, you find clarity, purpose, and a deeper connection to yourself. 16. The power of intention. Every morning we wake with a blank slate, a day Wei-Jing touched by outcomes, free from the stories we've yet to tell. What if the difference between a day that feels chaotic and one that feels meaningful lies not in external circumstances, but in the intentions we set? Intention is the compass that guides our actions beyond mere reaction. It's the quiet declaration of how we choose to show up, regardless of what unfolds. Setting an intention is different from making a to-do list. While a list focuses on outcomes, intention focuses on presence. It's not about what you'll accomplish, but about how you'll be while doing it. For example, you might set an intention to approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear, or to respond to others with patience and kindness, even when patience isn't met with the same. A teacher I know begins each day by writing a simple intention on her mirror. Today, I will listen more than I speak. This practice reminds her to create space for others' voices, to prioritize understanding over being understood. Over time, this small intention transformed her classroom, not through grand changes, but through hundreds of tiny intentional moments. Her students felt heard, valued, and seen. What intention might you set today? Perhaps it's about how you handle stress, interact with loved ones, or approach your work. Speak it aloud, write it down, or simply hold it in your heart. Then, throughout the day, return to it. When you feel yourself slipping into old patterns, gently redirect yourself back to your intention. It's not about perfection. It's about the practice of choosing presence over automation. 17. The wisdom of solitude. In a culture that glorifies busyness and social connectivity, solitude is often misunderstood as loneliness. Yet, solitude is not the absence of company, it's the presence of self. It's the conscious choice to spend time in your own company, to step away from external validation and internal noise, and to simply be. Solitude is where we rebuild our connection to ourselves. It's in the moments when you're free from expectations, roles, and demands that you remember who you are beyond the doing. Many spiritual traditions recognize this truth. The Desert Fathers and Mothers of early Christianity retreated into solitude to seek deeper communion with the divine. Buddhist monks spent years in isolation to cultivate mindfulness and insight. Even in secular life, some of history's greatest thinkers, Thoreau at Walden Pond, Virginia Woolf in her writing rooms, found creativity and clarity in solitude. How might solitude serve you? Perhaps it's a weekly walk without your phone, a morning where you don't engage with anyone before the sun rises, or an afternoon spent in contemplative creativity. Start small. Even 20 minutes of undisturbed solitude can begin to rebuild your relationship with yourself. One woman, overwhelmed by her role as a mother and professional, started taking a solitary bath each week. No podcasts, no reading, just herself and the warm water. At first she felt awkward, disconnected, but over time these baths became sacred spaces where she rediscovered her thoughts, her desires, her voice. Solitude taught her that she wasn't just a mother or a worker, she was a whole person with needs and dreams beyond her roles. So ask yourself, when did I last spend time in solitude, not out of necessity, but out of choice? What might I discover in the stillness of my own company? Solitude isn't self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. It's the space where you remember that you are enough, not for what you do, but for who you are. As we continue on this path, remember that each step you take toward presence, non-attachment, and self-awareness is a step toward freedom. The journey isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. With each practice, each moment of intention, you're not just changing your habits, you're transforming your relationship with life itself. And in that transformation, you find not just peace, but a profound sense of belonging to yourself, to others, and to the universe. 18. The dance of light and shadow. Life is not solely composed of joy and light, nor is it defined solely by pain and darkness. It is the dance between the two, a dynamic interplay that gives meaning to each moment. Without darkness, light would have no contrast. Without pain, joy would lack depth. Think of a painting composed entirely of white. It would be formless without definition. It is the addition of shadows that creates dimension, beauty, and truth. The same applies to our lives. The moments of suffering, loss, and struggle are not flaws in the design, but essential elements of the whole. They teach us resilience, compassion, and the value of fleeting happiness. When we resist the shadow aspects of life, when we fight against grief, anger, or fear, we create inner friction. But when we acknowledge and embrace these emotions as natural parts of the human experience, we find a deeper equilibrium. A poet once wrote, "The night is as much a part of the day as the day is of the night." This duality is not a contradiction, but a harmony. To walk the path of mindfulness is to learn this dance, to move gracefully between light and shadow without clinging to one or recoiling from the other. When you feel the weight of darkness, remind yourself that it cannot exist without the light, and vice versa. Balance is not the absence of darkness, but the ability to hold both in your heart. Ask yourself, how have I resisted the natural dance of light and shadow in my life? What would happen if I allowed myself to feel fully, without judgment, whatever arises, joy or sorrow, peace or turmoil? The dance of life requires no resolution, only presence. And in that presence, you find not just acceptance, but a profound connection to the rhythm of existence. 19. The practice of generosity. Generosity is often misunderstood as simply giving material possessions, but true generosity extends far beyond Kai Wu. It is the willingness to give of yourself, your time, your attention, your compassion, your forgiveness, without expectation of return. It is the practice of opening your heart in a world that constantly asks us to close it. When you give selflessly, you break down the barriers between yourself and others. Yet solitude is not the absence of company, it's the presence of self. It's the conscious choice to spend time in your own company, to step away from external validation and internal noise, and to simply be. Solitude is where we rebuild our connection to ourselves. It's in the moments when you're free from expectations, roles, and demands that you remember who you are beyond the doing. Many spiritual traditions recognize this truth. The Desert Fathers and Mothers of early Christianity retreated into solitude to seek deeper communion with the divine. Buddhist monks spend years in isolation to cultivate mindfulness and insight. Even in secular life, some of history's greatest thinkers, Thoreau at Walden Pond, Virginia Woolf in her writing rooms, found creativity and clarity in solitude. How might solitude serve you? Perhaps it's a weekly walk without your phone, a morning where you don't engage with anyone before the sun rises, or an afternoon spent in contemplative creativity. Start small. Even 20 minutes of undisturbed solitude can begin to rebuild your relationship with yourself. One woman, overwhelmed by her role as a mother and professional, started taking a solitary bath each week. No podcasts, no reading, just herself and the warm water. At first, she felt awkward, disconnected, but over time, these baths became sacred spaces where she rediscovered her thoughts, her desires, her voice. Solitude taught her that she wasn't just a mother or a worker, she was a whole person, with needs and dreams beyond her roles. So ask yourself, when did I last spend time in solitude, not out of necessity, but out of choice? What might I discover in the stillness of my own company? Solitude isn't self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. It's the space where you remember that you are enough, not for what you do, but for who you are. As we continue on this path, remember that each step you take toward presence, non-attachment, and self-awareness is a step toward freedom. The journey isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. With each practice, each moment of intention, you're not just changing your habits, you're transforming your relationship with life itself. And in that transformation, you find not just peace, but a profound sense of belonging to yourself, to others, and to the universe. 18. The dance of light and shadow. Life is not solely composed of joy and light, nor is it defined solely by pain and darkness. It is the dance between the two, a dynamic interplay that gives meaning to each moment. Without darkness, light would have no contrast. Without pain, joy would lack depth. Think of a painting composed entirely of white. It would be formless, without definition. It is the addition of shadows that creates dimension, beauty, and truth. The same applies to our lives. The moments of suffering, loss, and struggle are not flaws in the design, but essential elements of the whole. They teach us resilience, compassion, and the value of fleeting happiness. When we resist the shadow aspects of life, when we fight against grief, anger, or fear, we create inner friction. But when we acknowledge and embrace these emotions as natural parts of the human experience, we find a deeper equilibrium. A poet once wrote, "The night is as much a part of the day as the day is of the night." This duality is not a contradiction, but a harmony. To walk the path of mindfulness is to learn this dance, to move gracefully between light and shadow without clinging to one or recoiling from the other. When you feel the weight of darkness, remind yourself that it cannot exist without the light, and vice versa. Balance is not the absence of darkness, but the ability to hold both in your heart. Ask yourself, how have I resisted the natural dance of light and shadow in my life? What would happen if I allowed myself to feel fully without judgment, whatever arises, joy or sorrow, peace or turmoil? The dance of life requires no resolution, only presence. And in that presence, you find not just acceptance, but a profound connection to the rhythm of existence. 19. The practice of generosity. Generosity is often misunderstood as simply giving material possessions, but true generosity extends far beyond Kaiwu. It is the willingness to give of yourself, your time, your attention, your compassion, your forgiveness, without expectation of return. It is the practice of opening your heart in a world that constantly asks us to close it. When you give selflessly, you break down the barriers between yourself and others. As we conclude this exploration, remember that the essence of these teachings lies not in the words themselves, but in their application to our daily lives. Buddha reminded us, "What we think, we become." So let these teachings shape your thoughts, guide your actions, and transform your being. We invite you to continue this journey by sharing these insights with others. In doing so, you kindle the light of understanding in the world. And if you found value in these words, consider subscribing to our channel. It is not just about receiving more content, but about joining a community dedicated to learning, growing, and walking the path together. May you carry these teachings forward with grace and wisdom. May your path be illuminated by mindfulness and compassion, and may you always remember that within you lies the strength to begin again.